Don't worry about assistance exercises because you have nothing to assist. That was something that I heard Pavel say at a 2015 workshop, a barbell workshop, where he collaborated with Andy Bolton. If you don't know who Andy Bolton is, shame on you. Andy Bolton is the first gentleman to ever deadlift 1,000 pounds. And this was one of the questions that came up during the Q&A was assistance exercises. You know, when should we do them? Should we be doing them? How often should we do them? And Pavel's first response was, well, don't worry about assistance exercises. You don't have anything to assist, meaning focus on getting stronger in the main lift. And I touched on this in one of my last videos on training around ordinary time and being on mission. In the context of, and within that, in the context of, I deadlifted a barbell as an experiment to see what would happen if I deadlifted a barbell every single day. And I ended up going, I think, 92 days in total. And the key thing that I was focusing on there was just getting better at the deadlift. Assistance exercises, should you be doing them? And if so, when should you be doing them? So my first answer is going to be, number one, don't worry about assistance exercises, to the effect of what Pavel said. Focus on getting stronger in that main lift. So if you're trying to improve your military press, your bench press, your deadlift, your squat, your pull-up, focus on mastering that skill first before you add in any additional assistance exercises. This is going to do many things for you. Number one, it's going to simplify your training. Why is that important? Why should we care about simplifying? And when I say simplify, it doesn't mean making it easier. Okay, simple doesn't mean easy. We have a framework that we follow in the academy, and that is simplicity leads to repeatability. Repeatability leads to consistency, and consistency is the mother of success. So if we want to be consistent, and this I think is like a rule for life, right? Something we can follow for life. If we want to be consistent with anything, and I think the reason why people fail to be consistent is because we complicate the heck out of everything. This is something I also talked about in my last video around having more constants than variables. When everything's variable and everything's crazy, all these assistance exercises, you're not going to be consistent because it's too complicated. It's too difficult to follow. So just like strength training, just like developing a strength training plan, we want more constants than variables. When we have more constants than variables, training is going to be simple. And so if we can trim it down to where we're doing simple things, that is going to be more repeatable. I'm not a power lifter. More than likely, you're not training to become a power lifter as well. So we really shouldn't be training like a power lifter. When I say that, that means adding in all of these additional exercises, because that's going to take more time for you to do your training. So when we focus on getting skilled at the main lift, it's going to simplify our life. And when our life is more simple, we can maintain that and repeat that day in, day out, week in, month out. And then that's what leads to consistency, okay? Number one, if you're trying to, press half your body weight, if you're trying to do your first 5-minute snatch test, if you're trying to get better at deadlifting, focus number one on getting better at that skill before you even think about assistance exercises, okay? So that number one would need to be met before you think about including assistance exercises. Once you do that, you continue to do that until you've reached your genetic potential. Let's look at the deadlift. So I mentioned I deadlifted a barbell every day for 92 days, like three months, every single day, 7 days a week. And I didn't overtrain. And in fact, my deadlift not only did my skill get better, but I lifted some numbers that I hadn't lifted in a very long time. So if we're looking at this within the context of the deadlift, in my experience, I don't think anybody needs to be deadlifting with a belt, any kind of assistance gear with the deadlift until you're deadlifting at least 2 times your body weight at a minimal. We should be able to build our own virtual belt by learning the skills of strength training and then applying them to the bar. It's our body which should dictate what the external weights should do, not the other way around. Meaning, I should be able to put myself in a particular position, because it's always position before submission. Okay, that's one of our philosophies in jiu-jitsu. Okay, posture and positioning, and that's kind of how I translate that to strength training. Posture and position. If I can put myself in the right position, if I know how to breathe, I know how to brace, I know how to wedge, I know how to create leverage, the stronger you are in your posture, okay, the better position that you're gonna be in, the better position that you're in, the more leverage you're gonna have over the external weight that you're trying to lift. And when you get this skill set down, you're not gonna need a weightlifting belt. I deadlifted. I'm just a regular dude, okay? I'm a regular dad, 2 kids, wife, doing all those things. I'm not a powerlifter. And yet, without using weightlifting straps, without using a belt, I deadlifted raw 290 kilos. What is that? 639 pounds. I'm just a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm just a dad with a camera here, okay? Now that took several years to work up to. It wasn't like this, I did it in a month. That was a culmination of practice from 2013. I think I pulled that in 2018. That was a 5-year process to go from barely being able to deadlift 405 to deadlifting 639, okay? But how did I get there? I focused on the skills of strength training. I didn't use a belt, I didn't use straps, I just focused on getting strong in the lift. And at that, my training was just super simple. I just deadlifted 3 to 4 times a week. No assistance exercises, and that was the fruit that we reaped out of that. That's the second part. Number 1 is train the main lift. Number 2, continue training that lift until you hit your genetic potential. I believe that genetic potential, for me, would be 3 times body weight deadlift, which is what I pulled. When I pulled 639, even though it wasn't 640, just for round numbers, let's say 640. And I think I was weighing about 205. I might have been close to 210, I don't really recall, but even if I weighed 210, that's the triple body weight deadlift. I had some personal things that kind of derailed my progress. My goal is to hit 705. Haven't gotten there yet, but I believe I might have reached my genetic potential right around that 639, because I haven't been able to quite get back to that point. Again, I've had some other personal things kind of set me back, still working my way back there. But I think I might be approaching that genetic potential there. I mean, 640 pounds. So until you reach, this is my professional opinion, until you reach, 2.5, 3 times body weight on the deadlift, then you can start looking into assistance exercises, maybe wearing a belt at that point. Again, disclaimer, this is just my own personal recommendation on how I would look at this from my own training. So once I reach my genetic potential, when I realized, man, I'm just not getting, my deadlift isn't growing anymore, now I'm gonna start incorporating assistance exercises. And that's actually something that I did during the deadlift daily. I incorporated one assistance exercise, and that was the Zercher squat. And the reason for that was because the Zercher squat patterns the sumo deadlift, especially the way that I was doing it. The Zercher squat's has built-in safety mechanisms. I did a video on this, built-in safety mechanisms, to where I wouldn't overtrain with the squat, because if I started doing back squat, I didn't want to overtrain my back. So the moment that my abs gave out, the moment that I could no longer hold a particular amount of weight, that was it for me for the Zercher. But the Zercher allowed me to, in a sense, still train my sumo stance. It built my hips, it's built my back, and it really built my abs. So there was a good carryover there for the sumo. So that's one thing you want to consider. If you are going to incorporate an assistance exercise, you want to find something that's going to support the main lift, that's not going to compromise the mission. But I only did that once I reached my genetic potential with the deadlift. Now, there's a lot of nuance that goes into this, like how to program assistance exercises into your training. you know, the share of volume, knowing, you know, how many weeks to do it, how many weeks to pull it out. That's not something to be covered in today's video because we could be here for way too long. But this is stuff that I cover and I coach our students through. So if you want more information about, you know, coaching with us and whatnot, I'll put something in the description. And, you know, if it makes sense for us to maybe work together, you know, that'll happen. The key takeaway here is assistance exercises are good. They have a time and place, but I think we should keep them minimal. I think we should only resort to assistance exercises once we've spent a lot of time practicing and mastering, dare I say, mastering that skill of the main lift until you've reached your genetic potential. So if we let's look at the kettlebell snatch. Let's say I want to do the 5-minute snatch test. And you got two versions of the 5-minute snatch test, by the way. You've got 5-minute snatch test, which is as soon as 5 minutes hit, you got 100 reps, right? So that's like the SFG standard. 100 reps, 5 minutes or less. So once you hit 100 reps, if you're done at 4:30, then you're done. Then you have the 5-minute TSC. TSC stands for the Tactical Strength Challenge. This is a contested event worldwide, and you go for 5 minutes. You snatch for 5 minutes. And so once you hit 100, you just keep going until the clock hits 5. So for some people, they've hit 100. Some people, I think the record held by Derek Toshner, absolute machine, by the way. Derek Toshner, I think, hit 134 with a 32 kilo bell. Now, let's say you're training for this snatch test and you're trying to do the 5-minute, like max reps. You're trying to do the 5-minute and you're always, you know, kind of stalling out around that 120 mark, let's say. And no matter how much you've rinsed and repeat, you've practiced the skill, you're doing you're doing everything, and just for whatever reason you can't get there. Maybe you've reached your genetic potential, you know, endurance-wise. Then I believe at that point you can start incorporating some assistance work, and a very simple, like assistance work would be maybe incorporating some heavy one-handed swings once a week to build the strength and the power in your legs, to build your grip. Maybe it's your grip that's giving out. Well, incorporating some heavy swings once a week, snatching twice a week might be a good remedy for you. And a lot of this stuff is trial and error. You got to find what works for you. So for me, for the deadlift, it was the Zercher squat. That paid big dividends on helping me during that deadlift daily experiment that I was doing. That's all I got for you today, man. You know, assistance exercises, there's nothing wrong with them. But I would resort to, you know, Pavel's initial advice is, you know, don't worry about assistance exercises because you don't have anything to assist. Like, you got to build that strength. You got to build that foundation first. You've got to master the main skill first. And you do that, you train that one lift. Once you feel like you've put the time in, and that doesn't mean you've done it for 2 months. I didn't start adding assistance exercises until the deadlift daily, which was 2021. And I started deadlifting around 2013. So we're talking 7-8 years of deadlifting, deadlift only, until I added an assistance exercise. So until you've put that time in and working on mastering that skill of strength, getting better at posture and positioning to gain leverage, once you put that time in, and as your lift starts to grow, once you hit that genetic potential, I believe for deadlift, it's somewhere around 3 times body weight deadlift. Then you can start looking into assistance exercises. And then, you know, that's when it gets more nuanced. But if you're trying to build a half body weight press, if you're trying to, you know, max your snatch numbers, if you're trying to build a bigger deadlift because that's just a mission that you're on, don't worry about assistance exercises. Focus on getting stronger in the main lift. And I will guarantee that just by doing that, you'll see your numbers grow just by focusing on the main lift. If this video helped you out, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you can be updated with more strength training tips. And if you need some help building a bigger deadlift, in the description area, I will put a link to a resource that I put together. It's called the Deadlift Playbook, I believe it is. How to build a bigger deadlift without training like a power lifter. And so a lot of it's gonna cover what I've talked about today, the little nuances, the skills of strength. I'll put that in the comment section. You can grab a copy of that, and I'll see you in the next one.